Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan, presenting Tell Me Your Spurs Story. And here with us tonight, sharing his story, it's Brian. Brian, how are you keeping, my man?
I am doing absolutely phenomenally, my man. How about you, good self?
I'm all good. I'm all good. Absolutely brilliant. And of course, Brian, Tottenham away is going well, isn't it?
It certainly is. We are growing at a very fast rate. I mean, it's so good to just see all the Tottenham community just help each other out and be there to support everyone, like you are with Tottenham away, like we have been with you,
Yeah,
and everything. But the greatest thing about it as well is obviously, as everyone says, the catalyst for it all is Ben and Simeon and We Are Tottenham TV. They have just not only have they done a brilliant job, especially during lockdown, but they have opened the door for so many people to talk about their passion. And
yeah.
what greater way to spend your time than to talk about the club you love?
No, 100%. I agree. The two boys are absolutely brilliant. I've nothing but good time for them. And same as you, Brian, and the rest of the guys on Tottenham away. Absolutely phenomenal stuff there. But look, we'll get straight into it, Brian. Look, we know Tottenham. Supporting the club. It's like a full-time job. You know, it's hard at times. You know, especially with the success that we're starved of. But look, Brian, how did you get into supporting this great club?
So yeah, first of all, I think Tottenham need to bring out their own health insurance because supporting Tottenham, you definitely need that. It's not covered on the NHS or OHIP over here. They need to look into that. But the way I started supporting Tottenham, fairly simple. When I got to about 6 or 7 years old, and I was at the age that I needed to know what football team I should follow and was getting to love football, I asked my dad one night, I was going to bed, Dad, what team should I support? So he clearly said to me, listen, I live just outside Tottenham in Gants Hill, Essex, and my whole family support Tottenham. Always have done, always will do. Your mum, well, she was born in Tottenham. She was born in Bruce Grove, and growing up, when Spurs scored, she could hear the Tottenham roar. Her whole family support Tottenham. Now, you, my
Yeah,
son, you can support any football club you want in the world as long as it's not Arsenal. And then after that, I just followed the family tradition, and I have the scars and the heart attacks to prove it as well. Wouldn't have it any other
yeah.
way though.
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. Look, sometimes, you know, I curse my father, especially when we get in touch and distance and it's snatched away from us, especially when it comes to glory. You know, sometimes I curse him, but ultimately I do thank him because, look, it's an amazing journey to be on. You meet some amazing people. You know, every fan is sound to each other. That's one thing I've noticed. You know, in other clubs you have fans who hate each other, but I don't think that's the case when it comes to a Spurs fan. We're all one and we're all family.
Correct.
You know, so I think you should be thanking your mother and your father there, Brian.
I do. And my grandparents and my great grandparents and so on and so on. So yeah, I do thank them every day for it.
Brilliant, brilliant. Look, one of my earliest memories would be like when I was living in Croydon, the old lad used to bring me down to a park and he used to set up goals and he used to give me the ball, he'd be in goals, and I'd be running around in my Spurs kit trying to score on him. And he'd never, ever, ever let me score on purpose. And it used to drive me insane, you know what I mean? But what it did do is it made me be better at finishing. It made me more determined to try and put one by him. And that's one of my earliest Spurs memories, being brought down in my full kit. Absolutely delighted, loving life. But what's one of your earliest Spurs memories, Brian?
So I've got there's a few I can mention now. The first one, it's funny when you mention playing football with your dad at the park. Now I can remember when I just started walking, running, and kicking the ball properly and everything. I think I was about 2 years old. Obviously, I was walking a little bit earlier, but running and kicking the ball and everything. And I can remember I was on holiday with my parents, and I was having a little kick about with my dad, and I went to kick the ball and I missed it, and I smashed into a wall and broke my ankle. So that was as a 2-year-old kid, but I've actually still got the plaster cast intact. So
Yeah,
that's a memory I'll never forget because I've got the cast to prove it. But there's been so many. But I think the first time I went to White Hart Lane with my dad, there's a funny story behind it because it was the season where we signed Gary Lineker first, so 1989. So I was 10 years old. And we were in the Carabao Cup, which was then the Simod or Littlewoods or whatever the hell it was called back then. It's had more names than we've had managers. So I can remember we were playing Tranmere away, and I can't remember whether we were 2-0 up or 2-0 down with like 15 minutes to go. And my dad said, you know what, if this goes to a replay, we'll go to the game. Thinking
yeah,
that, there's no way we're either, I can't remember if we were 2-0 down and we had to score two, or we're 2-0 up, and that. But in the 90th minute, one of the teams equalised, and my dad was like, okay, so I guess we're going to Spurs on a school night, which would be a Wednesday evening, and I was like 9-10. So obviously going that late would have been my mum wasn't best pleased, but we went to the game. I remember Spurs won 4-0. I sat in the West stand, which was obviously the family stand, the corporate stand, the quiet stand, and yeah, just wait. I still get it now, and I can't wait to actually get back to London, actually see the new stadium. But I had this when I came back from Israel, and I hadn't been to Tottenham for 10 years. But when you go through the turnstile for the first time in a while, I had tears in my eyes. But that feeling when you start walking up the steps into the section you're sitting in, you see the floodlights, and then you get there and you see the pitch again, and it's just honestly the greatest thing about Tottenham and going to Spurs, actually going to the games, is it doesn't matter what's going on in the outside world. You could be under so much stress at work, your relationships, money, anything. But as soon as you sit in that seat for 90 minutes or 2 hours, however long you're there for, you don't think of anything else.
100%.
Everything else is that you forget it. And that's just the how captive Tottenham makes you, and any football team, but Tottenham especially.
100%, and I want to touch on that. But first of all, I want to give my ma credit and my sisters credit, because when I was brought down to the park, they used to stand to the side and watch me, a little David, you know, run around, and they used to afford me that time. So I also have to give credit to them. But Brian, honestly, with what you just said there, I 100% agree with it, because look, when we moved back to Ireland, you know, it was a long time since I was able to get back off to a Spurs game. And then I was able to bring my dad over for his 50th birthday. And, you know, I got the same feeling when I walked through the turnstiles. I just felt like I was home. I thought, look, even that whole weekend, the whole month, I could think about nothing but that game, getting there. And then when I walked through that turnstiles, even before that, when I got up to the stadium, I was just like, I'm home. Yep. I am home. I am where I belong. And going through that, man, honestly, I just soaked up every single moment. I soaked up going to the bar and getting a beer. I soaked up being out in the stand early, getting a full view of the old White Hart Lane. I soaked up the players warming up. I soaked it all up. And I fully agree with you, you know, especially when you've got to go and then, you know, you don't get to go as much. When you get there, that feeling you get. And it's like, you know, I even sometimes sit there for half an hour to an hour after the game sometimes and just take it in. I love it that much. I'm not even messing. I just feel like it's where I belong.
Yeah.
But Brian, look, I've explained throughout this series many a times, you know, what's made me fall in love with what is it about Tottenham that made me fall in love with the club? It was being in the ground on the terraces when I was a young lad. You know what I mean? Just seeing so many people with passion, fully grown men, you know, singing, you know, devastated after a loss, high after a win. And I just knew it's where I wanted to be. But what is it about Tottenham that made you fall in love with it?
Johnny, I think it was with my mum's parents. Like I said, they were born in Tottenham. My grandpa was obsessed with Tottenham, bless him. But Johnny, it was my grandma who, unlike my other nan, and back then you didn't have a lot of women that were obsessed with sport or really into football. My grandma, bless her, I've never seen a woman so passionate about Tottenham, and seeing her excitement, and she knew the players' names and she had the stats, and I was like, wow. When you hear people speaking so passionately about something, especially as a kid, it sounds like a fairy tale.
Yeah,
it really does. And you got to remember, when I was speaking to my grandparents and my dad, they're talking to me about the 61 double team. They're talking about Bill Nicholson. They're talking about Jimmy Greaves, that famous picture with Dave Mackay, where he's just literally picking someone up. And you hear these stories about the glory days, and it literally is like the fairy tale that comes true. And I was like, I want some of this. I have to be a part of this. And like you said, mate, staying in the ground after the game, I like to do that a bit, but I prefer to get there earlier and have that moment, like be one of the first in the stadium, because you don't know what the result's going to be. And if you want to stay in and you've just had a 3-0 defeat or a 1-0 to a big rival, you don't want to be in the ground and go, oh, I love this. Doing it beforehand and then watching the stadium fill up. I mean, what I love about going to Spurs as well, I haven't been able to witness it in the old new stadium, But I used to love getting there so early, and then you'd look around, there's like a couple of thousand there.
Yeah.
And then like 10, 15 minutes before kickoff, like 30 odd thousand people just appear. It's like, how do people do that and get so many people into their seats that quickly? And it's just incredible to see it build up.
Yeah. Look, the first time I was back, Brian, I remember sitting there, it was like, what, about 15 minutes before kickoff, still more or less empty. I'm sitting there, I'm like, is there even a game here today? Do you know what I mean? Have I come on the wrong day? And then, 5 minutes before kickoff, it's full, everyone's chanting, everyone's singing. And the one thing I love is seeing the adulation our fans give our players, the respect, the adulation, the pure, the pure love they have for Tottenham. It's absolutely fantastic, our fan base. It is brilliant, and I love it. I love this club so much. But look, Brian, there's been many great players that's pulled on that jersey. I've made no secret that my favourite is, look, I have a few favourites, but I think my most favourite would be Luka Modric. I think he is. I've never seen a midfielder of his size, of his stature, come into the Premier League and take to it the way he did. Be so graceful on the ball, have so much time no matter where he was on the pitch. He could ping it left, he could ping it right, he could ping it over the top. He got stuck in as well, which I loved. And, he was the basis of our team for a while. He ran the show for ages. You know what I mean? And I absolutely loved him. But look, you have me old lads, one of me old lads' favourite player, Ozzy Ardiles. You have Glenn Hoddle, you have Gascoigne, you have Kane, Son. You want to talk about midfielders. You also have Moussa Dembele there. Talk about defenders. You have Jan Vertonghen, you have Ledley King. Then you have Steve Perryman. You know what I mean? But Brian, who was your favourite player to ever put on that famous white jersey?
So I'm going to go a bit on what you touched on just before you asked that question and end it with the hero. So one of the things I love when you said about the love that the Spurs fans give to the players, one of the things I love more than ever is when returning Spurs heroes come back.
Yes.
And what they do for when they came back. Now, I took my sister to her first ever Spurs game, and it was Spurs Everton, and it was where my favorite ever player, Spurs player, and this player. So many people say to you, if you could have one Spurs player back in his prime in this squad, what would it be? And it doesn't matter what period you ever ask me that question, the answer will always be the same, and it's Paul Gascoigne. Mm-hmm. Every single time, no matter if we're shit in defence, and you still say, what player can you have? Paul Gascoigne, Paul Gascoigne, Paul Gascoigne, Paul Gascoigne. And Paul Gascoigne came back and he was playing for Everton. And every time that guy touched the ball, you could just hear, "You're Spurs, and you are your Spurs." Yeah. And every time there was a corner, they were like this. I mean, my sister was like, "He doesn't play for us." I was like, "No, this man was," like I said, my first time I went with my dad was 1989. But Gaza signed in 1988, and people were waxing lyrical about this player we signed for £2 million. £2 million, which was then a British record transfer, which just goes to show the craziness of transfer fees now. Now, Paul Gascoigne, that every team normally have these players, and like we had it with Bow, or we have it with that whenever this person touches the ball, the whole stadium was like, "Oh!" And you hear the adrenaline rush. This guy was worth the entrance fee alone. I could pay 90 minutes to just go. If you said, remember when Sky had player cam and you just watched that player?
Yeah.
I could have got in and you could have just said, right, you're just allowed to watch Gaza, and I would have paid double. This guy was unbelievable for the size of him. You got to remember when he came, he's stocky, but he was a little bit overweight. Sorry.
Yeah.
But the things he could do with this ball, he didn't really have pace, but he could sprint away from people. His passing was astronomical. His skill, this guy, and nothing was something more than the FA Cup run we had in 1991. He set up the goal for Paul Stewart against Blackpool.
I was just about to ask you about his semi-final free kick.
Oh, we're going to go through the FA Cup run. So that he set up Paul Stewart. Then he against Oxford. Now the Oxford game is a very, very funny story because back in the day when that Oxford game was. His agent was a Jewish guy called Mel Steen, and his son Paul Steen was a friend of mine, not a very, very close friend, but through Jewish youth club, whatever. And he was getting bar mitzvahed on that day, and Paul Gascoigne turned up at our synagogue for his bar mitzvah the day, like hours before the Oxford game. I've never seen a synagogue so packed in all my life because I knew Gaza
Yeah.
was going to be there. It was like 3 people to a seat. The rabbi even said, listen, when it comes to doing my weekly sermon, I think I'm going to get Gaza up here because you've all come to see him. It didn't go through it, but then he had to leave, obviously, to get ready for Oxford, and he tore Oxford apart. He set up 2 and scored 2. And I don't know if any guys that still watch that FA Cup run-up, but there's a famous commentary when Gaza scored his first goal, when, like I said, he got the ball and the whole crowd went mad, and the commentator goes, the crowd weren't really excited with this attack because it wasn't go anywhere, but now Gaza's, oh my God, it is going somewhere, and he took everyone on.
Yeah.
And the crowd, it was sensational. So he had that game. Then obviously we played Portsmouth away, and against Portsmouth, this is when the Alan Sugar deal was about to come on because we were drowning in debt. Went 1-0 down to Portsmouth on a really, really, really bad pitch. Scored 2 goals, went through. Who scored the 2? Paul Gascoigne. Notts County. He was a mistake for the first goal for Notts County. Who scored the winner 2-1? Paul Gascoigne. And then you get to the semi-final. And you've got to remember, that semi-final, no one thought he was going to come. Like Jose did with Son for Man U.
Yeah.
No one thought he was even going to... And he was on the pitch. And I've never, still to this day, seen someone destroy a team in 10 minutes as quickly as he did. Now, that free kick, I still know that commentary off by heart. Is Gascoigne going to have a crack? He is, I say. And the whole, that free kick, and you got to remember, back then, people didn't even think about shooting from there. And you had David Seaman in goal then, who was by then the best goalkeeper in the country, if not the world at the time. What a goal. What a goal. I mean, and his
Give us your best crack at the commentary, Brian. Give us your best commentary voice and do the commentary.
I know I could do it. Is Gascoigne going to have a crack? He is, Oh, I say, brilliant. That is schoolboy's own stuff. Oh, I bet even he can't believe it. That is one of the finest free kicks that this ground has ever seen. Seaman got a touch, couldn't hold. Spurs have the lead. Paul Gascoigne, the scorer. That's it, word for word. That moment I will never, ever forget. But then obviously it's such a shame what happened to him in the final, which obviously ruined his career. And you know what? Sometimes I wish I could have that sliding doors moment where we could see what would have happened if that hadn't happened. Obviously, he would have gone to Lazio a lot sooner, but who knows if the alcohol and what happened to him would have been as bad, because this guy, honestly, you'll never meet a nicer person who will always talk football, love for everyone, and it's just such a shame. I mean, it's great to see him doing well now. It's great to see him doing well. And as you said with this club as well, what Gary Mabbott has done for that man is incredible. And obviously, like I said, could you imagine if we had Paul Gascoigne in his prime right now?
Yeah. No, my old lad always talks about him as well. And just bringing back that commentary, Brian, that's going to spark so many memories of people that watch this. They're going to be absolutely delighted with it. I can already see the comment section off the chain for that. But no, look, my old lad always talks about Gascoigne as well. He always talks about Hoddle, Ardiles. He even loved Modric as well. But no, that's great memories there. That FA Cup run, Brian. This is exactly what we're after on these Spurs stories. So thank you so much for sharing that. But look, we've had many great managers in the dugouts. My era alone, you have Pochettino, you have Harry Redknapp. Look, you have Jose Mourinho now. That's debatable right now. But look, all in all, he's been a great manager over time. You have Martin Jol, who for me was the first one to kind of set us on this new era. You had Terry Venables, who won us a couple of trophies. Then you have the great Bill Nicholson, and so on and so on. But who's your favourite ever manager in that dugout?
There's been a few, but the first thing you got to mention is Bill Nicholson. Bill Nicholson is like our Matt Busby, our Bill Shankly, he is. And not just that, I mean, the quotes he came out with are still so famous with this club and woven into the fabric of this great club. Keith Birkinshaw was great, but that was like the 81 Cup final. I was only 2 or 3 years old, so I heard a lot about him. Terry Venables, I loved. It ended very sourly, obviously, but he's the one that kind of got Gary Lineker to Barcelona. From Barcelona to us. He was a name that could get people. But But if I had to go through my time, I absolutely adored Martin Jol. In fact, I was so happy when Santini left, and they up. I still don't know the real reason for why Santini left, because God knows what he could have done. But Martin Jol was just phenomenal for this club. No one can underestimate what that man has done for this club.
Yeah.
The football we are playing, I mean, hit Berbatov and Keane together. What a partnership. What a partnership that was. That was a blessing and a joy for every Spurs fan to see.
Yeah.
And Martin Jol, not just that, his character and his love for the club still to this day is there for all to see. And I hate the way it ended. I hate the way he ended, especially, I mean, yes, Ramos came in, and it was just horrible. Harry Redknapp at the time was phenomenal.
I loved Harry. I loved him.
I loved him, and I loved the football we played. And it obviously he was such a. We had AVB. AVB was after him. We had Ramos. We had, and it weren't nice around the club. No. Harry Redknapp brought it all back. I don't like the way Harry ended it, especially after. Yeah. You know what? We backed him. We supported him. We gave him a platform in the big club. And then obviously we had the Rosie 47 kind of legal deal. Then his heart problem and the medical staff, when we looked after him. And then as soon as that England job came up, we went on a huge run down. It was no coincidence. He thought he was going to get England. He even made it publicly aware. We went on such a downhill. And then he opened his mouth on Sky Sports News and he was gone.
Yeah.
AVB didn't like the football, but he did well. He kept the season he got Bale to have. But then you got to talk about, obviously, Mauricio Pochettino, who took us to heights. We struck gold. We literally struck oil.
Yeah.
Because when we signed him, I thought it was great because of the youth coming through. I thought it was great because it's a young coach, but not in your wildest dreams. If you had said to me during his tenure, this is going to happen, Harry Kane will come through, Champions League finals of semi-final, second in the league, I would have said, you are goddamn crazy. Yeah. And in all honesty, when it came available, I actually wanted Louis van Gaal because of his reputation and what he'd won.
Yeah.
But boy, was I happy that we went with Poch. Yeah. And so, to answer your question, if I had to say in my time, if I can't pick one, it has to be Jol and Pochettino.
Yeah. Look, I fully agree with you. Just touching Martin Jol. Look, I think every Spurs fan loved him. I think that was when we switched from being what we were to this new era of football, playing very nice, silky football. I fully agree with you. It was very sad the way it ended. Of course, halftime during that Europa League game out in, I think it was Spain. A very sad end to it. But look, I'll always love Martin Jol. He had so much love for the club as well. You could even see it in his eyes. He was crying and, he was upset. And you can only respect the man. He done great. He done wonders for this club. He done some great things. Harry Redknapp, I absolutely adored. I love the man. I think he was a great manager. I think he was a great man manager as well. And look, ultimately, he was the first one that brought me to the promised land, Champions League football. It's where I've always wanted to be. I've had everyone around me is always the big clubs. I've always been watching European nights, Champions League nights, and for me to finally get there with my team, who I've had to suffer so much with, to be able to get to the promised land, it was absolutely amazing. AVB, look, ultimately, I think his football was boring, but look. He done all right, I suppose. He done all right. He got Gareth Bale to have a great season, like you were saying, Brian, but ultimately, he just wasn't the right fit for the club. Then you go on to Tim Sherwood. Look, he saw us out to the end of the season. He came in, he done a job. Respect to the man. He felt like he deserved more time. I probably felt like at the time he probably did deserve a bit more time, to be fair. But then Pochettino come in, and look, what a manager. What a manager. Again, to see the evolution from my team just making the Champions League to being to the promised land, for him to take me all the way to the final in the manner that it happened. Look, you had luck along the way, but that luck adds to the journey. It's one journey. Any Spurs fan that was lucky enough to be alive and remember that journey, especially coming out of the group stage, that last game, we had to go and do a job against Barcelona. You know what I mean? And hope that the Inter game went our way. And, it was just an amazing ride to be on. But the funny thing that season, Brian, even after 3 games, when most teams, I think we had, 1 point, I think, you know, people were saying we were dead and buried. I still believe we were going to get out of the group, you know, and I don't know why. I still believe we're going to get out of the group. And that last game, when it was coming into it, me and the old lad was speaking beforehand, and we both said to each other, we have that funny feeling that we're going to get out, and if we get out, we will go to the semis or the final. And ultimately, it ended up what happened. So absolutely fair play to watch. Great memories there. But Brian, you know, look, there's been some great games over the years, and of course, look, you've had the privilege of going to many. So I'm not going to harp on about any games that are my favourite. Everyone knows about them. You share some of your favourite games.
Okay, so one that sticks out immediately for many reasons is my first North London derby as a season ticket holder. It was the season after Klinsmann left when Chris Armstrong had signed.
Yes.
It was the summer after Naeem from the halfway line with Arsenal in the Cup Winners' Cup or whatever it was. And obviously what was I? So 18, maybe it's 17. But going to your first North London derby with your mates and at home is always like the buzz, and you always remember your first of everything, your first steps, your first words, your first everything. So this one, I mean, I can remember this game. Obviously, like I said, it was after the Naeem from the halfway line, and after 6 minutes, Dennis Bergkamp put Arsenal 1-0 up, and he scored from the 6-yard line. So Arsenal started singing Bergkamp from the 6-yard line, but just to try, it was like, yeah, whatever, mate. So we scored an equaliser. I think it was Rolf Fox. It was Rolf Fox who had a blinder. Had a blinder that game. But then at half time, the second half came out, and Seaman had to walk down to the Paxton, which is where my season ticket had. And all the Spurs fans started singing, "Let's all do the Seaman, let's all do the Seaman, la la la, la la." So he had like 20,000 people, and we just ripped him for the whole game. Chris Armstrong scored the winner, and literally, we wouldn't, after we won 2-1, all the Spurs fans wouldn't leave the ground, because obviously the longer we stay, Arsenal fans can't leave until we've cleared the decks. So I think we were there for about an hour and a half afterwards, still like half the stadium full, because we just weren't letting the Arsenal fans out. So that was incredible. I mean, I was at the Southampton away game when Ronnie Rosenthal scored a hat-trick, 6-2.
Yeah.
I went a lot. I went. So I had my season ticket the year Klinsmann left, but the season that Jurgen Klinsmann was there on his first stay. Wow, what a striker! I mean, we got him for 2 million, and he came with this reputation of being a diver, a cheat, or whatever.
Yes.
He tore the Premier League apart. He was. I've never seen a striker have such an effect.
Yeah, he done his famous celebration. Remember the diving celebration?
It's brilliant. I mean, also, I wouldn't say one of my favourite games, but one of my favourite times at Tottenham. And this is how bad we were in the 90s. Ian Walker was in goal, and where I had my season ticket, we got so fed up with Ian Walker that we used to have a £5 bet, and there's like 20 of us that used to sit together to see how many times he'd do this to his hair during a game.
Yeah.
And we literally just used to watch him and be like, "That's one." And we used to count because, mate, the amount of times he did it. And then we used to do that with how many times Andros Townsend would be caught offside or shoot up into the cut in and have a shot. So do you know what it is? Sometimes some of my favourite moments aren't just games; it's the fun and the chance and the ribbing we've had of other players or our own players, because there's so much banter. I mean, still to this day, I still don't understand how we got Christian Eriksen to have a song out of Agadoo Doo Doo. I mean, if you think about that and think, how the hell were you thinking?
Give us a belt of it. Give us a belt of it, Brian.
I can't because I hate him because how he left. I can't sing his name.
Yeah.
As I said, by the end of his time, I used to call him "Where's Wally" or "Where's Waldo" for people on this side of the pond, because in the big games you just couldn't find him. When we signed him, what a player! What a player! I hate the way it ended. But yeah, there's so many Spurs games, and also one of the ones that I loved. Obviously, I was there when Ledley King made that sliding tackle on Ian Robben.
Yes.
And I was back down at the Paxton end, and when you see Robben that far away, and Ledley King just running like a steam train, and to make that interception. So this is the thing. I mean, you ask people great games they've been to, and you could probably be here for half an hour.
Yeah.
But I always find talking about great moments, and like I said, seeing those things, I was privileged and blessed to be there.
Yeah, no, 100%. I even feel that way when you were talking about Jurgen Klinsmann. Like I was privileged enough to see him at the Lane as well, and you know, great memories from Jurgen again. You know, even at that young age, I was well aware of who he was.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And to see him arrive at Tottenham Hotspur, unbelievable. Um, Unbelievable moments, Brian. But look, you know, we spoke a lot about some goals throughout this show so far, Brian. You know, like the Gascoigne free kick. You know, you even have David Ginola's one versus
Girona.
Barnsley in 1999. You know, where we've threw half the team cut in from the left hand side. You know, look, you have so many from Gareth Bale, Harry Kane. You have a couple from Son, Robbie Keane. You have a couple from Berbatov, Modric, Wanyama, Asu Akoto, first game of the season versus Liverpool. You know, Danny Rose has a few. Brian, what's your favourite ever goal scored in the Spurs jersey? Naeem's goal from halfway as well.
That's such a hard question. I still have to go Gazza's free kick, because you got to remember, not just was it against the Filth, not just was it an FA Cup semi-final, not only was it the first ever semi-final FA Cup game and the first FA Cup semi-final Wembley goal, but Arsenal were also going for the double that season, and they were miles behind everyone.
Yeah.
And with us being in debt, the moment for that goal is just something unreal. I mean, we have seen so many great goals. Like I said, that Gareth Bale's got his own collection, but when you think about that, all I can think about is Gareth Bale against West Ham. That goal was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, Gazza, I can remember as well, he scored a hat-trick against Derby with Peter Shilton, and he tells the funny story, Gazza, that he was away with England before that game, and he said, listen, and the England team all got mobile phones from whatever company it was back then.
Yeah.
And Gazza said, listen, what we'll do is we'll play you the weekend, put your phone in the corner, and if I get a free kick, I'll call you and tell you where I'm going to put it to see if you can save it. And he scored 3 goals, but 2 of them were free kicks. One of them another 30-yarder. And every time he's running away, you can see him laughing because he's thinking about that story.
Yeah.
Just the cheek of him. But like I said, Klinsmann, his scissor kick against Everton, or his volley from outside the box against Sheffield United, Blackburn. I think it was Blackburn or Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday it was. But yeah, Gazza's free kick is the one, hands down.
Yeah, 100%. A great goal. And for any of the younger generation out there, it's on YouTube. Just typing in Gascoigne free kick versus Arsenal semi-final FA Cup 1991. It's going to come up.
And check my 100%. Commentary as well. Word for word, perfect.
And Brian's commentary. Yeah, of course, Brian gave you the full-on commentary there. But Brian, you know, for me, you know, at the club, it's a way of life. The motto I keep explaining to people there is to do. I wish some of our people around the club would actually read into it a bit more like us fans do. But what does this club mean to you?
So, I'm going to tell you a story now, which will encapsulate just what this club means to me. So, as I said, I used to live in Israel. And back then I had a fiance. This is before I met my current wife. So we're talking 2004, 2005. And around this time of year where we are now, which it was, it's a Jewish festival, Passover. And it was coming to the end of Passover, and her family were half Moroccan. So the day after Passover ends is a Moroccan festival. And it just so happened to be the day that Spurs were playing Arsenal. And I said to her, listen, she's going, yeah, we're going to get to my mum's for this time to watch the Tottenham Hotspur, to have the Moroccan party. I was like, okay, well, it's very good. You go there. I'll meet you at this time. Spurs are playing Arsenal, and it's one game I don't miss, especially being thousands of miles away. Yeah. I do not miss this game. And she's like, no, you have to come to the party. You're not going to the game. I was like, no. I told you before we got together, I don't miss this game. If it had been any other game, I would have fought my case. But I was like, Spurs Arsenal, you're not winning. And she's like, no, you're coming to this party. And I was like, no, I'm going to the pub. And she's like, you're going to come. This when I still drinking. They go, you'll come back drunk. I was like, okay, I'll tell you what, I won't drink as much. Whether I would or wouldn't have is by the by back then. but then she came up with
win or lose. I'd say you would have had a few extra anyway.
Exactly. And then she came up with a quote. She said, Brian, it's quite simple. either you come to this party and we're still engaged and everything is rosy, or you go to the Spurs game and we're over. And my answer to that question was, I'm going to watch the game, have your bags packed and gone before I come back. Do not make me choose. Do not make me choose between Spurs and Arsenal. My wife now, bless her, knows when the fixture list comes out, and I tell her it's come out, the first thing she says to me, what 2 days are we doing nothing? Because she knows Tottenham Arsenal, don't even think about it. This club, when I moved to Israel, when I moved to Canada, it got to the point where I said to my wife and I said to my parents when I moved to Israel, if I don't get to see Tottenham regularly, I'm coming home.
Yeah.
This game, I mean, even when I go back about Tottenham Arsenal, I used to say to my people at work, I'm taking a day off when Spurs Arsenal came. If they say, well, you can't have it, I was like, well, I'm telling you now, I will call the sick line and say, I'm not sick. It's Tottenham Arsenal. I told you. Don't put me in a situation where I have to choose between Tottenham and Arsenal. Oh, sorry, Tottenham and anything else, because you're gonna lose. Like I said to my wife, the only time I would miss Tottenham Arsenal is if it's your birthday, you're in labour, or someone's died. Anything else, forget it. I don't miss Tottenham. And that's what this club means to me. It has cost me so much, but if I had to do it again, I'd have exactly the same. This club, as you say, and I've said this for a long time, no matter what goes on in life, your family come and go, your friends come and go, jobs come and go, things in life will be thrown your way. But the one constant that is with you from the day you dedicate your time and your commitment and passion to this team to the day you die is your football club. They are there with you, good times or bad times. They can give you good times or bad times, or they can put you in good times or bad times. But I wouldn't have it any other way. This club, like I say to people, when I fall over and bleed, I bleed blue and white. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's what this club means to me.
Beautifully put, Brian. And look, I agree. Look, I'm like that with any Spurs game, to be honest. Everyone knows, look, I'll do anything for you before or after. I'm not doing anything for you when there's a Spurs game on. But when it comes to Arsenal, I'm not doing anything the night before. I'm not doing anything that day. And I'm not doing anything the day after. It's just not happening. Yep. So, it's like a mini bank holiday for me when the North London derby comes around, lad. It's absolutely brilliant, But no, beautifully said, Brian, I have to say. Look, I've 2 more questions. I've 2 more questions for you. So one, how did you become involved with Toronto Spurs, the supporters club you have out there? And 2, a bit about Tottenham away. First of all, how did it come about? And second of all, how are you finding the journey?
Okay. So, how I got involved with Toronto Spurs. So, as I said to you, when I go anywhere or live anywhere outside the country, I need to know where there is access to Tottenham. I didn't realise here in Canada and North America, I knew the Premier League was big over here, but I didn't realise the juggernaut that it actually is. Yeah, and we get ripped off back home because we get every single game on TV, not just Tottenham. Every single Premier League game, when it's on, it's on. There's no subscription. There you go, it's on. So I didn't realise that. But the very first thing I did when I arrived in Canada was went onto Facebook, Toronto Spurs or Spurs Canada. Hi, I've just moved from Tottenham, from England. Where's the pub in Tottenham? What do you do? And it's actually a fantastic pub downtown called the Scotland Yard, which, funny enough, when I came here and got married in 2014, I actually went to watch the England World Cup game there and didn't even know it was a Tottenham pub. And then when I moved out here 3 years later, fate opened its door and it was there. So I went to my first game as a Toronto Spurs, and it was just after Christmas when we drew 1-1 with West Ham at Wembley, when Son scored a 35-yard thunderbolt, which was incredible. And there were so many people there, and it was just so nice to be a part of. And then what happened as I started going more to the game, they needed people on the Toronto Spurs board. Yeah. I was like what we're doing now. It's like, you need someone to help you build Tottenham up and talk Tottenham and try and organise social things Tottenham-wise. I was like, oh my God, not only am I in a foreign country, not only have I got a good group of Tottenham fans here, but now I get to talk and do things Tottenham in my spare time. So that was fantastic. and I loved it. But how Tottenham Away came about. So obviously, the way I've met you, David, and this is what I love about We Are Tottenham TV. You get there and you have your voice. And the way those boys do it is just absolutely outstanding. They're a credit to not just Tottenham Hotspur, but to all fan channels. They are absolutely brilliant, especially during lockdown. The content they need to fill up because people are all at home and they're down and they need a bit of a break. So I appeared on that a few times. And then obviously people that have seen me on there knows that I'm quite outspoken. I'm quite comedic and I like to have a laugh, but also I'm very, very passionate about Spurs. And my views. I stick by my views. And then obviously through that, I got invited to do a podcast over here called the North End Pod, which Brian Ireland, who is on Tottenham Away with me, is doing. And I had thought for a very long time that I wanted to do this, like a YouTube channel or a pod on Spotify and Apple Music. But the one thing that stopped me doing it was I don't have all the editing skills and I won't have the commitment just myself to do it.
You're like me.
Exactly. You know, as you know, David, and doing it yourself, it's a lot of work. It's a lot. You've got to be fully committed. It's like when bodybuilders go to the gym. It's like you have to give 100% because if you take a day off, that's when the rot sets in. And you. So I knew I could do it, talking and getting the content. It was just putting it together.
Yeah.
And then Brian Ireland said to me, Brian, do you know what? I've been trying to do one. His one is just Premier League. He goes, I want to do something Tottenham. Yeah. I was like, do you know what, mate? I've wanted to do it, but you have the skills that I need. And he's such a great host. You've been on both the podcast on Tottenham Away and the North End Pod.
Big shout out to Brian, actually. Big fan of Brian. I'm a big fan of everyone at the Tottenham Away.
So he's been saying he actually wants to come onto your channel. So he's going to make sure that he makes time for you, like you have for us. But then obviously Stelios. Now, Stelios and me actually went to secondary school together. Wow. I've known Stelios since we were 12 years old. Yeah. And what's happened with Stelios is we talk on social media, but we hadn't been like we are now, like friends that speak every day. And it's one of the great things about social media. You can get back in contact with people. And Stel was kind of my backup and I was his backup because whenever people started going on about Daniel Levy, we would always come across with our views, which we're not Levy lovers. Yeah. And then he would back me up and I would back him up. So I said to him, listen, mate, I'm thinking of doing it. So it's great to get him. And obviously he went to school or he knows Shy through his football coaching. Yeah. So we started this as a podcast to get the wrinkle out, all the iron out all the wrinkles and everything. And the great thing with us is Stel and Shy are both coaches. Yeah. So you've got the coaches aspect of things as well as the fans, like the fan side. So what I have noticed is we started off on just a pod, and then a few weeks ago we branched out into the juggernaut that is YouTube, and it's just been fantastic to have so many people coming onto your show and liking the show. You have been a phenomenal support to us, David, a phenomenal support. But also to have people like Brandon, who we were on with yesterday. Yeah. Brandon, not only what a great guy, but I mean, when he first appeared on We Are Tottenham TV, I was like, I know that guy. And never in my... Did it, I was like, where do I know this voice? Where do I... And then Ben said, Power. And I was like, oh my God.
Terry Silverstone, the attorney.
Exactly. So when I tweeted him, we go, oh my God, Brandon, I'm such a huge fan of yours and Power, and I'm even bigger fan now. I know you're a Spurs fan. It's amazing to see worldwide what this fan base is. Yeah. And to get their views. And like the great thing is especially during the lockdown, people need cheering up. People want content. People want to get away and think, all right, I'm a prisoner in my own home, but let me just enjoy what I can. And to just watch the growth of yourself, which has been amazing. Your content is sublime, mate. And like I said, anyone that hasn't liked or subscribed to the Irish Hotspur, do so. And most importantly, listen to the fantastic stream he did on Friday night and the time and effort that he put into it. And now you see what goes into it. I mean, David, I've said to you off air many a time. It was absolutely mind-blowingly outstanding. And like I said, doing this is like now. Beforehand, we were trying to get guests on a weekly basis and we're booked now till mid-June. Yeah. and we've got people from Germany reaching out to us, and we've got people from the States and back home, and it's just, you know what? It's a wonderful thing to be a part of. And you know what
Yeah.
else? What else is good about it? I suffered I've got no shame to saying this out loud. I'm a manager, or used to be a manager when I was working for Booking.com. But one of the things that I had trouble doing is public speaking. When you see me, like, put me in a room with 500 people and say talk Tottenham, no problem, all day long. But ask me
Yeah.
to speak about the company or where we're moving, I always got nervous.
Yeah.
So going on We Are Tottenham TV and doing all this for public speaking and confidence, and to help you grow yourself personally, it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. There's so much to get out of doing these channels and being a part of channels and doing these things, not just on a professional side, but on a personal level. And the greatest thing about it all is you get to connect with Tottenham fans around the world where you
Yeah.
never would have thought of beforehand. And it's just a special thing to be part of.
It is. It is. And to be honest with you, you know, I've been so glad to be able to watch you Tottenham guys, you Tottenham away guys grow. Like I said, look, I've nothing but respect for Brian. Much respect for Brian. Same as yourself, Brian. Me and you talk regularly. And there was so much respect for you too. You know, Shy as well. So much respect for him. And then you have Stelios. And what's mad is actually because when that run to the Champions League final, I used to listen to Last Word on Spurs, the call-in show that they used to do for Love Sport. And I used to hear Stelios call in, and, you know, no matter who called in, he was always the one on there the longest. He's always the one that managed to get the panel talking about things. And you know, I always sat there and enjoyed his input. So it's mad, you know, that connection. And then to see him at Tottenham away, and then all of us to be able to do things together the way we do and all, you know, it's absolutely madness. But yeah, no, Brian, this YouTube journey, it's madness. Look, I'm so proud of the video I done Friday. I do think it's one of my best ones. So thank you so much. And I'm glad that you've enjoyed it and that it's been well received. But apart from that, I don't understand why people tune in to watch me. I really don't understand it. All I am is a fan sitting here just giving my opinion. But I've been so well received, and it's absolutely madness. And you know, just to the Harris Army, everyone else that tunes in and watches, everyone else that's helped let me go on their channels, and everyone that's come on my channel to help make it work. You know, I just want to say thank you so much. It doesn't go unnoticed. It really doesn't, you know. And it just means so much. It really does mean so much because, you know, the Harris Army, the people that tune in, they're so loyal. They're so loyal. I've never seen anything like it. And it's just amazing. And then, of course, like, you know, being invited onto Tottenham Away podcast, Brian, when it was a podcast, now it's a YouTube channel as well. You know, it was absolutely great to be able to branch out into that sort of stuff, you know, and to stay in contact and keep doing things and everything else. It's been an amazing journey, and I do urge everybody tuning in to get over to Tottenham Away, tune into their stuff, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. You know, the boys, they put in a lot of work. They're all both on different sides of the pond, shall we call it, and you know, they come together to make it work, and that clearly shows the dedication that they have to the club, to talking about the club, you know, to putting different opinions out there. And one thing I'm going to say is it's a very well balanced, thought out opinion. It's not knee jerk. It's not living in the moment reaction. It's very, very well thought out. It's you know, you never throw any comments off the hook without having proper stuff to back it up. You're like me. Like, you know, for me, I'd never go into a debate about things and not be prepared. You know, for anyone that thinks I don't do my research and I don't go back and look at things and analyze things, it's sadly mistaken. Like, I may come across as stupid, but I'm definitely not stupid. But Brian, honestly, you know, look, it's been such a great interview, but I have one more question for you. And it's the question I really like.
You could have 100 for me. I've got all the time in the world for you, my man. So 100, you take your pick, my friend. What's the question?
It's the last one. It's the one I love to end on. It's one that's personal to me. You know, I've spoke many times about my cherished memories. Brian, what is your most cherished Spurs memory?
Oh, this is such a tough one. Oh my God. So, right. As I said, my most cherished memory, and it's going to sound really, really stupid because it's not going to be a game. It's not going to be a goal.
It doesn't have to be, Brian. It's what's personal to you, and this is what I'm after.
What's very personal is like I said to you, for reasons living outside the country or whatever, I didn't get to go to. I had my season ticket for a while, but when I moved to Israel, I didn't get to go as often. Obviously, living in Israel, and when I came back from Israel, I was a mess. And in fact, I'm a recovering alcoholic, just so people know. And it's going to be July the 28th. Will now be 13 years for me clean, which I'm damn proud of. So obviously, during that time, when I was back in England from 2004, 2007, I couldn't go to games because all my money and I was a mess and whatever. And I can remember it was the season that Gareth Bale was still at Spurs, but he had not left the club yet.
Yeah.
We had just signed Soldado. We had just signed whoever we'd sign. And I can remember, when you play that first pre-season, that big pre-season friendly week before the season, it's like a big team. So my friend where I was working actually got us tickets to go to the game. And we got up so early. We were at the Brick. We did a little pub crawl. Obviously, me not drinking. I was on the alcohol freeze or Cokes, but they were drinking. But we were in the Bricklayers. We were in the Bill Nick. And feeling that atmosphere, again, like we said before, about going to the game and smelling the burgers and being a part and just blue and white everywhere. And then obviously it came to kick-off time. And as I said, we were sitting in the Park Lane. I used to love sitting in the Park Lane Upper. Park Lane Upper back in the day was my favourite place to be because obviously you had the Park Lane, you had the Shell side, and it was the place to be. And I can remember, and I was with 6 or 7 guys, and I think I was like about 2000. So I was in my late 20s, maybe even 30s, probably late 20s, early 30s, definitely 30s. And I'm with 6, 7 grown men, and I walked up the Park Lane. I saw the pitch for the first time, and I'm not scared. I cried my eyes out. Absolutely cried my eyes out. It had been about 10, 11 years since I've been to the ground.
Yeah.
And just to know that my friends had bought me this ticket, that I'm clean for that long.
Yeah.
And now that I'm clean, I can spend my money at the place of my place of worship.
Yeah.
My synagogue is my second place of worship. White Hart Lane is the I still do this when I'm back home and I go past White Hart Lane. You still have to do that without a doubt because it is the house of worship. And like I said, just that moment to see the pitch, to hear the music, and then it was just that would have to be my favourite Spurs moment on a very personal level because of what it meant to me for my exile through my demons and everything and not being able to go to then realising, I'm back where I belong. It was, I can't describe how powerful that moment was.
No, absolutely brilliant. Look, it never has to be a goal, a game, a manager. It's all what's personal to you, and that's exactly what we're after. You know what I mean? And fair play to you, Brian, and I think I speak for everybody that's watching this. Congratulations on the 13 years, and let's have another 13 more, Brian.
Exactly. And then on a lighter note, the other answer to that question is my favourite Spurs memory is any goal against Arsenal.
100%, lad. 100%. But look, before I end off, do you want to give your channel a little plug?
Yeah, let's do so, my man. Thank you. So obviously, as you can see on our social media, so on Instagram and Twitter, we're Tottenham_away. On Facebook and YouTube, it's just Tottenham Away. Today, we've got a great guest coming on at 7 p.m. UK time. It's actually the voice of Spurs TV, who was actually a team leader of the Jewish youth club I used to go as a kid. So it's great to actually have someone from the club that's talking. We're going to be talking about his favourite commentary moments, what he was doing when Mora scored, favourite moments he's had to commentate on, what Tottenham mean to him. But most importantly, he does an insane amount of work for the Tottenham Supporters Trust, which is an unbelievable thing to do. So it's going to be really good to get an insight of someone in the club. So we do weekly shows on Monday. We do post and pre-match like everyone else does, but we are starting to do we've got a lot more ideas in the tank that are starting to come. And the great thing with Tottenham Away, the reason we called it Tottenham Away is because obviously I'm away, Brian Ireland's away, and we want to connect with the fan base across the world. So if guests want to be on our show, they can also reach us at hello@tottenhamaway.com and just say, hi, I'd like to come on the show at some point. We are fully booked for a while, but there's a lot of stuff in the tank, and just come and enjoy it. Like, share, subscribe, and we hope you all enjoy what we do.
100%, and I can only echo that. You're not going to be disappointed. You know, you can always trust the Irish Hotspur. You can always trust the leader of the Harris Army. Get over there, check it out, smash a like and smash a subscribe. Look, I hope you've enjoyed this week's show. If you did, make sure you smash a like, make sure you smash the subscribe button so you can get notified when the next one is out. A big thank you to Brian Dagul from Tottenham Away for coming on and sharing your memories. Thank you to the Harris Army and anyone else for tuning in. Until next time, in Jose we trust. Come on, you Spurs.
Go on, you Spurs.